Greetings, everyone. Greetings. I got the Judge Joe Brown back in the building. We'll drop some more jewels for everybody. Judge, I don't think you need no introduction. Let the people
I
know who
don't
you
need
are.
an intro.
Yeah, you don't
Just
need no
do it.
introduction. Let's go ahead and get this thing started. So, there's a lot going on as far as with this Democrat stuff and all that. I see that they keep sending money to Ukraine, and we got problems over here. Why is that, Judge? Why do they keep sending money to over there?
Stupidity. And the other thing is a jackass in chief in the White House is trying to bribe his way out of this indictment they returned against him. The Ukraine Supreme Court ordered it unredacted, and it turns out that Joe and Hunter Biden have been indicted in multiple counts in Ukraine. That's why they send that fool word salad broad. What's her name? Mrs. Imhoff, Kamala Imhoff over there, because in spite of her incompetence and embarrassing performance on the international stage, Joe Biden can't go over there because he's subject to it. Well, he's got pending indictments. I know he's supposed to have diplomatic immunity, but no one wants to risk an embarrassing situation. So I guess he's trying to bribe his way out of it, but it really isn't something we ought to be doing, because the Ukraine during World War II produced a lot of volunteers for the Waffen SS, the SS, that's the Gestapo, and the German army. And they rounded up a whole lot of Jewish people, and along with gypsies and gays and other folk they thought were Untermenschen, uh, inferior people, and sent them to death camps. So when World War II was over, Ukraine just became once again part of the Soviet Union, and they escaped a lot of the prosecution that took place at Nuremberg after the war was over. So there are a lot of unrepentant Nazis there, and there's a resurgence of that. And I don't know why we are involved, except for expediency by the Democratic Party to get something to distract attention from their incompetence in governance. And what we saw in these midterm elections wasn't an endorsement of Biden by any means. It was going against the Baba Yaga, the boogeyman, Donald Trump. So we are going to be against Donald Trump. Well, what are you for? Nothing.
So do you think that's distraction as far as them to keep them on Trump's side? They make like he's the bad guy, but they know Biden is really the bad guy because his son has definitely put him in a situation to where he can't get out. And I heard this moreover that Biden has been so dirty, and he's straight racist for real, but I don't see
Oh, he is. I heard him in 1972, one of the most insulting anti-black things I've ever heard in my long life. And, Mouser Biden, the hell are we supporting? And they talk about Trump's a racist. It's hard for anybody to approach the outright racism of Joe Biden. Joe Biden, when I heard him, was introduced by John B. Stennis, Faubus, and let's see, Byrd, and Strom Thurmond as the newest Dixiecrat and the youthful carrying on of the old Democratic Party tradition. And he proceeded to make some of the most disgustingly racist remarks I've ever heard, and he's been that way ever since. And I find it ironic that he was running around the country. One rock of crack will get you 5 years in a federal penitentiary. And his crackhead son's running around cutting these deals on his behalf. And that junkie is too damn out of it to come up with it. I know, well, I don't know, but I strongly suspect that that's just that fool that's in the White House working through his crackhead son to set that up. He's a crook, always been a crook. Urban trailer park trash.
Because I heard that through the grapevine that when he was in like a councilman, because he said he'd been in a federal worker for over 50 years, but you have not done nothing for the people.
Well,
you
let's put it
call
this
black
way.
people
That you
monkeys.
get to be a millionaire and all you've ever had your whole adult life is a civil service gig.
That's crazy. I don't get it, man. It's just that, you know, as these American people, they put so much trust in man and they put these people on a pedestal because look at our people. We set up here and follow Harris with the Converse and the pearls, and yet she was locking niggas.
I don't follow that bitch. She's evil and she lies through her teeth. She ain't even. I met her daddy. Somebody reminded me, said, when you went to Jamaica one of those times and you were a guest of the governor general and the prime minister, and you and your ex-wife were sitting at the head table, well, the table with them, they introduced you to Professor Harris. I said, that's right. He got introduced to me as our favorite Hindu professor. My ex, I think, asked him about it, and it was, he's Hindu and Irish, not black. And the mama is Hindu, Tamil Hindu, Brahmin caste, and Hindu, and Irish doesn't add up to black.
Yeah, and they showed not. She ran with that because Obama ran with it. He used it against.
Well, yeah, Obama at least had some African ancestry in him, more recent than 95,000 years ago. However, she ran as Asian all while she was out in California and didn't do much of a good job out there. Got hooked up with Soros, Mnuchin, and other folk, and she hoarded up with Willie Brown, who was mayor of San Francisco, and the Chronicle used to run these cartoons on her and keep up with her latest who she slept with in order to get a position situation. I mean, that's all business, but it is what it is. And she was known as lazy, and I was in California that overlapped a lot of her career. And it was not a good one. It was filled with incompetence, bribery, and laziness. And what did we get? Just a few months ago, all of her staff is resigning because they do all this work and she's too lazy to read it. And she gets up in front of an audience, and nowadays, I don't know, she can't wear the short skirts anymore. And she forgets that when you have a position, you sometimes have to show some kind of intellect for the position. And the Europeans are almost embarrassed for it. They just said she's just word salad Sally. She just throws a lot of words out there that mean nothing.
I just look at her.
She's uninformed, ill-advised, and can't stay on point, and just throws empty stuff out there. And they look at her like, really? That's the vice president of the United States of America? Oh, wow. And they have this senile fool with the finger on the button and her up next. And thank goodness Nancy Pelosi's out of there, because if Biden didn't make it through and had to resign or whatever it is, or got too sick, Kamala Harris would have been the president and Nancy Pelosi would have been vice president. And that's just flat disgusting. And not just necessarily because they're women, but it is what it is. And the other thing is, it's Mrs. Nancy Pelosi, Mrs. Sarah Palin, Mrs. Gloria Feinstein. Why is it not Mrs. Imhoff instead of Miss Harris? What's she trying to hide?
Because Biden just used her just a pawn just to give himself in the White House. And you had all these people come here, she's the bomb, she's this, and she ain't nothing but a crook.
Yeah, and my late mother was an AKA. She's an Ivy behind the wall, but I'm embarrassed at what the AKAs are saying. Oh, we got the first Black Greek in as vice president. No, you didn't, because Hubert Humphrey under Lyndon Baines Johnson and the Democratic Party candidate for president against Tricky Dick Nixon, he lost. He got made alpha back in the 30s in Minnesota and re-upped for the grad chapter in the 40s. So he certainly wasn't black. He was a tall, bald-headed white guy.
I mean, we so quick to fall for what these people tell us,
Oh,
and we.
well, you got this new kind of Negro.
Mhm.
I guess too many of them jumped out of a time machine from 1850. They're house Negroes, and they wagged their tails. And the Democratic Party has become the advocate, the representative, and taken over by those folk that, let's say, don't like traditional sexuality.
Mhm.
They aren't into reproductive sex. They're into, what shall we say, non-reproductive. Well, foreplay commensurate with non-reproductive sexuality. Yes, their business. Get your freak on in your bedroom, but LGBTQ. And a lot
They.
of gay folk don't even like LGBTQ because it's anti-family, it's pro-pedophile, and it's all this trans stuff, and they don't buy it. So I was conducting a thing with Dana, the real Dana,
Mhm.
Twitter space last week, and we thought we were about to be trolled. We got all these gay folk joined in, and guess what? The name of the organization was Gays Against Grooming, and they don't like
What?
that stuff. They just, we don't like that. That's wrong. You should not try to recruit these children. You're perverts. Something's the
Yeah.
matter with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that just shows you. We started checking around, and we found out a lot of gay folk don't go for LGBTQ. They call it a cult. Just because if you want to be Christian does not mean that you supported Reverend Jim Jones and drinking Kool-Aid at large church picnics.
Mhm.
Nor if you're Islamic, does that mean that you go for ISIS or Al Qaeda.
I just look at it. We just fall for anything. Anything
We
these people
do,
tell us, we fall for.
and we're trendy. Like I debated, what is this guy named? Dr. Eric Dyson.
Yeah, he's a clown.
I know. And see, the event we had this so-called debate for was put on by the Wilmington, Delaware Public Library. And it was supposed to be for the advancement of young male blacks.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy's getting up talking about black men have failed. We need to get out of the way. We're nothing but toxic masculinity, and we need to let the women run things. And I'm saying, look, dude, what's the matter with you? Man, the hell up and quit pushing that. What is it, Stacey Abrams mess from Georgia? That didn't work. So get out of it with it.
I just look at
Quit
it.
simping, dude.
They pretty much got him and other imps that gonna have the black people follow their lead into destruction. Because if you look at it, that chick Stacey Abrams, she was just a joke, just a forerunner to get these white people plans to go through. And just look at it. You got all these Reverend Al Sharpton, you got Jesse Jackson, you got all these
You mean
snakes.
Mr. Chicken Eater didn't want to cross his arms? And
Yeah.
Somebody hold my hand. We shall
Yeah.
overcome. Hey, folks, something ain't gonna get here. Get over it.
I just look
Do
at it
something
like
that works.
it just makes me sick to my stomach how our people keep falling for the same jokes, and they just keep constantly using us, telling that we for you, we like the dude Reverend Whatnot or whatever. He's another joke.
Oh, that dude's a joke. He's just a surrogate for LGBTQI
That's it.
plus
That's
whatever
it.
the hell it is. And if you want to see what he's about, last time I was in Atlanta, they drove me by his church, and right across the street, this preacher, supposed to be a man of God, walks out the front door of his church, and they got this field just filthy. And all of these homeless people out there, and this fool doesn't do a damn thing about it. And he's a U.S. senator and doesn't do a damn thing about it. He's a preacher that's taking in all of those 20 and 25% tithes from the congregation, and he spends it on himself.
Yeah.
in his luxuries instead of helping those people out across the streets. That's not good Christianity. That's just pulpit pimping. And that's
That's
what
it.
he's
That's
done
it.
while he's in there. Oh, granted, Herschel Walker doesn't sound that
Another
cool,
clown.
but at least you can count on him not voting against the family, not voting against manhood, not voting against womanhood, not voting against childhood, voting for exploitation, ripoff, and imposing a new religion. And what does that mean? Okay, there's Christianity, there's Judaism, there's Islam, there's Hinduism, there's Buddhism, etc., etc. And Buddhism doesn't have a deity. It's a system of philosophy. That's okay. But LGBTQ is a system of philosophy. And the country's not supposed to be a respecter of religion. There's not supposed to be any official religion. You can't put a cross under an American flag and hang it from a federal building. You can't put the Jewish star under there. You can't put the crescent and the Star of Islam under there, and you can't put the six-armed God under there under an American flag on an American government building, but you can put an American flag and a rainbow flag on a government building. Crazy. You go to DC and they have government employees painting rainbows on sidewalks and crosswalks and 12-foot banners hanging from the 12th floor of a federal building. What do you call that?
That's crazy, Judge. I mean, to me, I just look at it like now we just doing anything and accepting anything, and then when you talk about it, you the bad person. So if you keep talking about it, they're gonna ban you and put you out there like use a gay basher.
Yeah, and there's no such thing as homophobia. There is heterophobia. That's the one that's in the dictionary. Been there for a long time, but homophobia is about 10 years old. And that's a flip the script tactic of propaganda. In other words, you take your own weakness and you try to make it the weakness of your opposition. And there are a lot of gay folk that have a legitimate reason to have a phobia about getting burned at the stake, tortured, jacked up, mutilated, murdered, fired from the job, ostracized, put in jail because of their sexual practices. That's heterophobia. Toxic masculinity. I heard that I graduated from UCLA before the 60s were out, and I heard that over and over again. Masculinity is toxic. We have to start with some aspects at the time, and we have to soon enough get everyone to thinking masculinity is toxic. And what do you hear now? Toxic masculinity. What they're talking about is its absence. See, masculinity imposes on a boy something that gets deep down in his soul. So he's got to be a better man. So where he lives becomes a better, safer, more secure place filled with economic prosperity, sense of purpose, morality, and ethics, where he is a man of public peace, dignity, and order who can be brave and courageous when necessary. Where the Titanic is going down and he says, ma'am, you and your child may have my seat. I'll drown, but you ought to be saved, because you are a resource, and it's a man's job to sacrifice because we're like that. And then you take this crap that fools like Dyson were talking about. Well, men don't need to insult women by saying women need our man's protection. Well, wait a minute. Let's translate that. Hey, you so punk ass that if you were with some woman and somebody walked up, stick them up, you're going to turn around and run and leave her there?
Pretty much, that's what it sounds like.
Protection. What the hell's wrong with you?
That's what it sounds like. That's
exactly. I got better home training than that, don't you? Man the hell up, dude. And I went to a thing that some young Democrats gave, and they wanted to talk about I insulted womanhood. You know why? They got to talking about some stuff about why don't you withdraw and support a black woman for mayor? What about her qualifications? What's that got to do with it? And then I said, well, I've told all of you that the next mayor of Memphis needs to be able to walk down the streets everywhere in town without an armed escort, so he can deal with the people and do that thing about role modeling, teaching, instruction, inspiring, and relying upon that to say, okay, I don't need a bodyguard because the people say he's our man. Let we protect him. No, but you see what that came up with few weeks earlier, and some feminists were talking about that's insulting, women can do this. So this 19-year-old girl stood up and said, you sit down and shut up. If you got yourself out there and go where the judge is talking about going, some dudes are going to snatch you into a vacant apartment and take your cookies. So I said it politely. I just quoted this 19-year-old girl, college student, and they got offended. That's insulting womanhood. And some little jackass punk who had just gotten elected stood up. I want to apologize to the women for what Judge Brown said. Just sit your ass down. Nobody asked you, punk. Man up. Talking about it, I'll be damned. I got raised better than that. It's my job to protect womanhood and promote manhood. So the next generation does this. That's how we got from cave to condo. Maybe that's what our problem is, why we have so much violence in our community. And then see, when you put manhood in this boy, he looks in the mirror every day. Shave, brushes his teeth, combs his hair, whatever it is. And white or black, doesn't make any difference. Brown, red, yellow, because it's a man thing, it's universal. Were you the man you were supposed to have been yesterday? Are you going to do better today? Are you going to prepare today to be a better man tomorrow? And you feel intense shame and guilt if you can't answer that in the affirmative. Now, we have to get rid of shaming. It's wrong to shame somebody. Guilt is horrible. No, shame and guilt are good.
That builds character.
Yeah, and see, they want to get away from that, and all of a sudden, we get chaos. And what are they trying to do? They're trying to break down society. Why? Because they want to do something their way without accountability. So the best, easiest way to do it for them is to just tear all standards down so there are none, and they can do whatever they want to do without anybody getting on them. But that's not the way humanity works. And there are some things that are consistent across all cultures, all ethnic groups, all races at all times. And that's got to do with manhood, womanhood, and childhood. And when you start getting away from that just because you want to do your thing without consequence or anybody talking about you, you're on your own, because that's destructive. That's why we have so much violence in the hood. Why? There's no fatherhood in the hood. Nobody.
And they plan it like that.
You need a job. Boy, work hard. Boy, you got to get up. Boy, man's got to do. They don't get that.
But you know what, Judge? I always say that as people, we think because we grown, we pay bills, we don't like accountability. Who are you to hold me accountable? This is why. And you said this a while back. Back when welfare, back in the 60s and 70s, and the movie Claudine give a perfect example how the welfare system come in, take the father out. Now you got a mother's raising 4 or 5 kids, and you in the projects, now that you raising us to be savages and beasts, now that we out in the society, now you want to lock us up, tame us. But you got to look at it. The government made us like this. They didn't set up here and say, yeah, we're going to give them what they want. No, you took everything from us. Now we got to survive. Now we're killing each other. What a hungry lion would do if it's hungry? It would kill his own kind just to feed his belly.
Well, yeah, but let's look at this. Let's go back to the 50s and the 60s. Forget 70s and 80s. It was starting to go wrong then. When I started practicing law here in Memphis 50 years ago for legal services / poverty law, the number one case we had was getting the welfare check cut back on after some social worker espied 1 or 2 of the 7 baby daddies going back into a place trying to do something for the kids, and they cut the check off. Juvenile court. That ain't even mine, Judge. Well, I tell you what, boy, you feed it long enough, it'll look just like you. And then that kind of thing is just poison straight across the board. And then, I don't need no man. Daughter, I don't want no man. Boys, I don't want to be a man.
Hey, that's crazy. That's crazy.
I used to 25, 26, 27 years ago, I used to run a counseling session for women who were single, who had sons in the Memphis City school system. So the boy had to be 13 through 17. And every time I'd get a new group, they'd all judge with respect. What we got to need? Why are you saying we need fatherhood around? We don't need no man. Girl, I hear you. What good a man for, honey? I hear you. They ain't good for but one thing. They ain't nothing but dogs. Okay, ladies. All right, you got it out of your system. Let me put it this way. Do you want your sons to be men? Of course we want them to be men. So how the hell you going to raise them to be a man if you don't know what a man's supposed to be good for? Now shut up, sit down, and listen. They did.
So I think he got a little disconnect. He'll be back on.
I'm here.
Okay.
Somebody called on the cell phone. I guess it's hooked up with the
phone. If you got an Apple, yeah, it's going to be connected. So the thing about it is that what I'm learning is that for the women that say they don't need a man, and I go back and I look at that, like, for example, that they probably never had a father in their life, so they don't know what a structured house is. Or they going by what they see on TV, or they see in public, or they track the same people that's like them who ain't never had no structure. So when they start having their kids, they not gonna have no structure. Because you got women out here that kids, fathers in their life, but the mother make the have it so hard. The man that's taking care of the seed, they have it hard, but the man who ain't doing nothing, he have it easy.
Yeah, well, simping. They like that. You know, 15 years ago, I used to get around to most cities in the country, and you get on this Bobby on WFOOL. Do you have a thug at home? Just take care of your thug week. Oh, we got a caller. Tamika, this you? This Bobby? Yeah, this Bobby. You got you a thug at home? Yeah, Bobby. I loves me some thug. I got me a thug at home. All right, this Bobby. Who this? Just Jamita? All right, Jamita. You got you a thug? Yeah, Bobby. I got me a thug. He's so sweet. He look just like Denzel. My friend girls, they get so J. Who it? Who this? What we got? This Lucille, Bobby. I'm white, but I likes me some thug too. They so exciting. What the hell is this kind of stupid poison? Yeah. See, and it's glorification of dysfunction. And how this started is you had a group back in the 60s that hated men. They were lesbians. Hated that they weren't men. That's the feminists. Hated that they weren't strong men. That was the beta boys. Hated they weren't normal men. That was the gay guys. And hated that they thought men caused war, which was the anti-war bunch that added the ballast to this, and they wound up taking over the entertainment media, the movie industry, then the television industry, then the news, and I heard them back in the 60s plotting. They wanted to get insinuated in both political parties, create all kinds of hell and dysfunction and operate behind the scenes. And that's just exactly what they've done. And we've had 50 years of glorification of dysfunction. And it doesn't sound normal to me because what I say sounded like what my father said, sounded like what my grandfather said. But what these kids are saying now doesn't sound like anything that I've heard before. Just the way they think is not appropriate. It's like, where in the world did you get that nonsense, man? It's like everybody worked. And guys would hang around and talk about how tough the job was. You talking about you want to smoke a blunt and what your high score on a vid game was. What the hell's wrong with you? Oh, yeah, man, I ran 14 free throws out of 15. Who gives a damn? You ain't playing basketball. You ain't but 5 feet 9 inches tall. And you 24 years old. You ain't playing basketball, fool. Get yourself a job.
They don't know what that is, Joe.
Black culture. Man, we got to push black culture. This is the woke one. What are you calling black culture? We got a way of dressing. You got on some coochie jeans that you paid $250 for, some Nikes, And somebody, what kind of shirt is that? What the hell's that got to do with black folk? Last I checked, Nike's are not made in Africa. If you get the expensive one, they really add insult to injury. It says made in Hanoi, Vietnam, and all of the folk that got blown away, dealing with Hanoi back in the last 8, the Nam. Oh man, wow. What was it all for? $260, $280 tennis shoes, and that's supposed to be black culture. You got necklace bling around your neck, no bang, don't know how to deal with that. And what's your problem? And you can't even come up with a damn dance.
No.
At my age, I can do anything young guy can do when it comes on a dance floor. And, this stuff hasn't changed for 40-some years. I mean, my parents they didn't understand what we were doing when I was in my 20s. And my grandparents didn't understand what my parents were doing on the dance floor. Now you go in someplace, they have a family gathering and everybody from 15 to 75 can do the same dance and some version of it to the same music. What the hell's happened? This stuff is stagnated. Come up with something new.
Yeah, they saying it's for the culture. It's for the culture though, Judge.
It's for culture, yeah. And then I remember they had a thing here 4 years ago. Some black folk, young kids in college, got upset because they wanted Black History Month and they wanted soul food and they had white folk fixing it. Well, I looked at the menu, looked like soul food to me. Well, black day ain't black. I said, what the hell does that got to do, man? You ever been to the South? You go to a restaurant down here, white folk and black folk eat the same thing.
Yeah.
Call it the same thing. If you don't believe me, go to a damn Cracker Barrel if you get down to this part of the country. Check it out. And they might have, they got black cooks. Well, yeah, but what's that got to do? White folk put the menu together. Don't you get it, man? If you want black culture, you better find out what's going on. Not saying anything's wrong with Jesus, not saying anything's wrong with Allah, not saying anything's wrong with Jehovah, but you want to talk about black culture. Do you know who Dambala, Kotier, and the Goombay are? The 3 chief ancestral gods for West Africa? That's the Yoruba name for them, but do you know what they are? White folk know who their ancestral gods are. They call them Thor, and that's Marvel Comics. Remember Odin, Anthony Hopkins, and Loki, and then you have Zeus, Jupiter. We know the planets. We have Apollo moonshot and all this other stuff. What's named after something that's a black deity? Come on now.
I just look at the Judge now. It's like I look at how they doing Kanye West. And Kanye West, yeah, he even took responsibility on as far as damaging the culture because he put music out there to saying that this and that, but now he's taking accountability. What do you think about this whole thing, Judge? This out of control for me.
Garbage. Here's what I'm looking at. They ran Parler out of business. You could do 10,000 strokes on it. That's enough to write a small essay and really say something. It was very interesting. I used Parler, but Amazon and Apple Store, iTunes, they ran it out of business. But Kanye is now going to be head honcho for Parler. His buddy, Elon Musk, is taking over Twitter, where they try to press, shadow block, and ban anybody for coming up with any opposition to their little party line. Now Elon Musk is saying, we're not playing that, and I'm backing Kanye. So I always tell people, be careful what the hell you ask for. You might get it. And when you get those things, they're two-edged swords. They swing this way, swing back that way. Now, the 2 paramount print, express yourself in writing, social media venues are now in control of the people that ain't off on that other side. And see, when you have a free society, you oppose speech with more speech. It is fascist to try and control the narrative by suppressing speech. Another thing, we do not need hate crimes, because those hate crimes in America tend to come back and bite the people that they're supposed to protect very badly within about a decade or two. Let's take this thing going on right now. There is this big to do about, was it a hate crime when somebody came in and killed these black folk? Or was it a hate crime when they went in and killed these gay folk in this gay club in Colorado?
Yeah, I heard about that. Yeah.
Well, but hold on. You go off and you plan this and you kill all of these people, you getting the death penalty or life in the penitentiary without possibility of parole. What the hell are you going to do if you make it a hate crime? Oh, we're going to dig his body back up and execute it again? Or we're going to add 5 years on top of his death penalty or his life in the penitentiary without parole? What are you going to do? Embalming and sit the body up in a cell, for another few years? And excuse me, if you kill somebody and it's not justifiable, what makes it worse because you hated the person for what they were, because rather than you just hated the person, period? Is one life more valuable than the other because of their ethnic persuasion? You blow up a bomb in a black church, you're supposed to get the death penalty or life without parole if you get convicted. So what difference does it make if it's black? What are you going to do? Satisfy somebody, oh, they are against hate? No, that's just a sop. That's nonsense. It doesn't do anything, and if the person is about to do it, he's not thinking about it. He doesn't give a damn, because half the time he wants to die, and he'll be glad to take somebody out to keep him company.
Because I came across some judge earlier during the week. They were talking about R. Kelly. They might let R. Kelly out. What you think about that?
I always had a problem with him with, what's her name?
Aaliyah.
Aaliyah. He never could explain that. And frankly, I never did like pedophiles. I got partially reversed 4 times over a 10-year period by appellate courts. One of them was when I gave this guy 25 years, which was the max that the guidelines let me give him, because he sodomized his 11-year-old stepson who was handicapped. And the Supreme Court of the state said it wasn't the worst case they could think of, so they reduced it to 20 years. I found the death penalty is not a deterrent, because half the people that commit some of these murders are trying to get somebody to kill them. And if you give them the death penalty, that's what they wanted anyway, because they're trying to commit suicide by neighbor, just like some folk try to commit suicide by cop or by drug. And that last one, it's not about trying to get high. It's about trying to die. They know it'll kill them, but you analyze them and they've got high suicidal ideation. They want to die. Their life isn't worth anything to them. And we got 15, 20 people that try to persuade them or help them out. The only way you can deal with somebody that's a junkie like that past a certain few phases is let them hit rock bottom and almost die, or die. And if they survive, then maybe they'll determine, hey, I don't want to be dead. I want to be alive. I'll get over it. Now I need some help. Then you can do something with them. Otherwise, they'll just rely on you to enable what they're doing. But this whole thing here, I found this out. I had a whole crew of shrinks working on just about everybody I sentenced. I could do it under Tennessee law. And they were astonished initially at the high rate of suicidal ideation that some of these convicted or confessed people had when it came to why they did what they did. So a lot of the violence we have in our neighborhoods is for the reason that the young folk want to die. You hear, yo, Judge, look, I'm 21. I ain't going to make it to 24. Somebody going to kill me. I'm going to be dead, yeah. And a lot of this violence is not honor. It's not out of respect. It's really not about getting dissed. they're trying to provoke somebody into doing them the personal favor of taking their life. And if they can't get their own life taken, then if they kill somebody, they feel better about it because they scapegoated them. So we have to get the folk in the hood to want to live if we want to cut down on the violence. I found that out. And I knew that because I'd been a prosecutor. I ran the public defender's office back in the 70s for Memphis. I was in private practice as a defense lawyer. I handled a lot of murder cases, first degree, whole bunch of them. In fact, I got the youngest person in the world on death row off death row. Got a stay of execution 23 minutes before they were going to kill him. And he wasn't but 15 years, 2 weeks old at the time on the day they were going to execute him. So
about that, Judge, I ain't mean to cut you off, but do you remember a case where they had a little boy? I think he was like 12 or 13. They were gonna give him a chair because he did. I think he killed a white girl. Who did something. They say he did it, and he couldn't even fit in the electric chair. They had to put books under him.
Oh, that isn't the worst. When I got this kid off, I did a brief that was hardbound in a book. The requirement. It was 12,482 pages long.
Wow. That's
and one of the details in there was a compendium of executions. The youngest person executed in the 20th century was in Arkansas. She was a 10-year-old girl, black, who stole 14 cents worth of goods from a 5 and dime store on a Saturday, and she got busted for shoplifting. It's during the Depression. And basically, it was candy. They tried her as an adult on Monday, and they hung her on Wednesday. That was in 1934.
Good God Almighty, man. This is crazy. I just could not be imagined how you sitting on this bench and you got to get.
I wasn't a judge. I was the defense lawyer.
Good Lord.
Oh, I had one kid, 15 years old, they were trying to get the death penalty on. I had to go through all kinds of changes, including, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, there's somebody out there that needs to be punished, but not my client. Oh, no. And if the Lord wanted this stuff to be put in front of you as valid, he'd endorse it. And I threw it up in the air. And his sister stood up. Amen, brothers. Calm down, sister. We ain't through with this sermon this morning. She hung the jury up. We tried him again, and they acquitted him. And 6 months after he got acquitted, somebody confessed to the murder.
So that man would have been in jail.
And the second time he got tried, he wasn't but 16 years old.
So, I mean, Judge, you was on the bench, and I know you're a smart man. I know you can deter if somebody lying to you or not. How do you feel when these young kids, when you was on the bench, how did you feel when they was coming at you, when these young kids, you see they're in trouble, first time offense? How did you?
It's very seldom is it the first time. Okay. For example, I had a kid in my courtroom. He was 19. His mother is there asking for a bond reduction. The defense lawyer put her on the stand, and she's talking about what a good boy this kid is. All right. I'm listening to her. I said, ma'am, it's true that he has no convictions as an adult that are counted, but why should the court reduce the bond? Well, Your Honor, I had to make 4 bonds this year, and I can't afford to make the 5th one. Okay.
What?
Now, he's been a good boy. Yes, sir, Your Honor. Anytime I wanted something, he got it for me. I needed money for the rent or bill, he got it. Well, he dropped out of school in the 5th grade, so the highest grade he completed was the 4th grade. He's never been employed. Where do you think he got the money? Well, Lord, working mysterious ways. I'll be praying. I don't care. I didn't even ask. I said, he doesn't have any adult convictions. He just turned 19 a week or so ago. But since he's been 15, he's got 37 violent felonies. What do you mean he's been a good kid? 37, ma'am, and he's only 19. Now, and then Well, let's forget being a judge. Let's just be a defense lawyer. I'm innocent, Lawyer Brown. They just trying to put on case. I wasn't even there. They lying. Well, there's 7 witnesses. 5 of them went to high school with you. 2 of them gave the police your mama's address, and 1 of them had your mama's phone number and gave it. They say you were there. Well, see, that dude lied. Why is he lying? Because he couldn't have seen me. He was lighting a cigarette under the street lamp. I know he couldn't see me because it was dark behind the dumpster where I was. Wait a minute, I thought you weren't there on the scene.
Mm-hmm.
Well, see, I wasn't there because he couldn't see me. Well, you saw him, so that means you were there. Maybe he did see you. They described all 7 of these witnesses what you had on, and when they found you, there you were. Well, see, they lied because they couldn't have seen me where they were standing. One dude was trying to rap mess to some chick. You know, she had on a little bit of old short skirt, and the other one sitting up there lighting a cigarette. But I thought you weren't on the scene.
He just told on himself.
Yeah. And then, yay, man, we fixed this case. Me and my lawyer bought the prosecution and the police off. Oh, you just were riding in the back seat of a car and they found 2 roaches in the glove and the ashtray, and I got the case dismissed. That wasn't any major felony. Why are you lying? And see, you're his lawyer, you can't tell anybody. He's lying through his teeth. Mama, they picking on me. Oh, and then bad man. See, they lying. I ain't said nothing. Okay, gentlemen, are you ready to proceed on this motion to suppress the confession? Yes, sir, we are. State, you ready? Yes, sir, we're ready. Madam Court Reporter, can you set up in chambers in, let's say, 10 minutes? Or do you need longer? That'll be fine, Your Honor. All right. We'll go back there. We're looking at the tape. This guy playing OG gangster out there in my courtroom on a break. Yeah, man, I'm down with the cause, man. You know, like it's about the colors, man. Straight up, man. They trying to railroad me, man. Okay, I'll go back. All right, let's see what we have. OG sitting in front of the police. The detective saying, young man, you really need to avail yourself of your right to an attorney. We will get one for you if you can't afford one. We have the public defender's office. I don't want no lawyer. I just want to talk to my mama. I said, sir, young man, your mother's not an attorney. She can't come in here. I don't care. I just want to see my mama. You got snot running all out his nose, disgusting, all over his face like he's 2 years old. Sir, have tissue. This fool's gone through half a box of Kleenex. And they've offered, do not sign this, young man. This is a really serious charge. You should confer with an attorney. I don't care. It wasn't me. It was Stomp, Short Dog, Little Air. They was the ones.
Tell him.
Damn.
Tell him.
Punk. And then go out in court. Well, the court will remark that it has observed the video, and by the court's count, it seems that the police advised the defendant 11 times that he ought to avail himself of appointed counsel. They advised him seriously, but the defendant was out of control, crying for his mother. And also, let's see, from a previous bond hearing, let's see, I believe your name is so-and-so, you're known as Little Dog, you are Earl and Jamal, right? Yes, sir, that's right. Please take them into custody, charge them with armed robbery, murder, and the perpetration of a robbery. The defendant in this cause named all of them as his accomplices during the course of these proceedings. What, man? No, take them into custody. All right. And see, later on, he thought, Mama railroading my son. He didn't confess. Yes, he did.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
Certainly did. See, all these clowns tell on each other.
Mm-hmm.
They have no honor. It's just some at the top. I had one woman, she was a major drug queen pin, and she was behind a lot of contract killings. And she had a head lieutenant that would set them up. And I remember I had 6 people in my court charged with first-degree murder for some of this contract activity. Typically, what happened is one of them was trying to get some nookie, and he was bragging to some prostitute or some crazy woman with a drug problem, and she was trying to beat a case, and she informed on him, and he shot his mouth off. But the woman at the top, number one man, they just keep quiet and say, I want a lawyer. And see, you cannot convict somebody in America, well, at least not in Tennessee, on the uncorroborated evidence of an accomplice without something else to go forward. So they always escaped, and fools would wind up in trouble because they shot their mouth off. Mm-hmm. I had one bunch of idiots. Some of them were juveniles, some of them were young adults. You know how they caught them?
How?
They Xeroxed the article in the local newspaper about this drive-by where 5 folk got shot and killed and 4 more got injured. They Xeroxed it and they autographed it, talking about we did it, wait, And see, as a defense lawyer, I'll say this. 45 years ago, the stats were the same as they were last I checked, which is 97+% of all people in American penitentiaries pled guilty. Just a little more than 2% got found guilty by a jury. Now, within that 2%, there are some wrongs that occur. There are very few in that group that pled guilty where some wrongs occurred. In that 97+% that copped out, 84 to 87% of them confessed. And the confessions aren't forced. There's no need to conforce. These fools just run off the mouth. They're like, you've been looking at television your whole dope life, and as a kid, you never remember that part with all those cop movies shows you looked at. You have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can be used against you. Why didn't you just keep your mouth shut?
Yeah, just
whining and crying with snot running down your nose because you scared of white folk, and they wouldn't have a case on you.
This is what they doing now, Judge. They snitch on each other now. But now they put it in the rap song, what they have done, how they killing each other. And now, then when the feds come knocking on your door, what I've learned, when the feds come knocking on your door, they got all the information they need. They just need you to confirm what they got. Once you confirm, then that's when you going down.
Hey, I'll give you another little word up on the law. If it's federal, just say, I take the Fifth Amendment. Do not say anything like, I don't know what you're talking about, because they will tell you, we're here to investigate, so on and so forth. So as soon as you say, I don't know what you're talking about, they just got a conviction on you for making a knowingly false statement to a federal official. What's that? They just told you while you were there, why they were there, and you say, I don't know nothing about it. So you lied because they told you what it was about. Now, you can say that all day long. In most states, nothing happens, but do not say it to the feds. Just take the Fifth Amendment. I got nothing to say about that. Now, I'm not going to answer that question. Sorry.
Because you
don't feel like you have to explain yourself. You have a right under the Fifth Amendment. Now, these Democrats that are with the DNC, they want to get rid of that because it's inconvenient when it comes to getting rid of some of these toxic men. And they want to get rid of this Fourth Amendment thing about search and seizure. They want to defund the police. They don't want anybody shamed or feeling guilty, but no Second Amendment so you can defend yourself. Well, the police ought to protect you, but the U.S. Supreme Court has long said, and get this, the police have no obligation under American law to protect you unless you are in their custody, or it follows from an active crime scene that they got involved in. Then, they protect anybody around, but they don't have any duty to protect you until it's going down. And so what are you supposed to do? Police are defunded. You can't protect yourself. So you're supposed to hold it in your hand, like, oh, man, I'm here. Wow. There's sex, there's race crimes that protect me. Dude, just gonna kill you. Don't give a damn about that. And half of them want to die anyway.
Pretty much.
I got elected to 2 8-year terms as a state judge. Only 2 times did anybody went off in my courtroom. Guess what? The prosecution said, Your Honor, we're not seeking the death penalty. What the hell you mean? What you think I killed a fool for? You gonna have to kill me. I'll kill me another MF. Restrain him. And you see, they want to die. So the death penalty is giving them what they want. You can read, Mario Puzo wrote The Godfather, and in Godfather 1, Don Corleone is talking to his son Michael before he became the Don, and they're talking about Luca Brasi. That's the guy in the first movie that came to the wedding, and the rest of the made men didn't want to deal with him. Only the Godfather could deal with him. He's saying, Michael, you need to find yourself a Luca. Luca hates his own guts. He hates himself so badly he wants to die, but he doesn't have the nerve to put a pistol to his own head and kill himself. So he will kill anybody under any pretext, hoping that he will provoke someone to do him the personal favor of taking his life. And if he gets the chair, he won't squeal because that's giving him what he wants. And that's just exactly what happens. And I used to see it when I grew up in LA. Way back when they didn't even call it South Central then. Certainly wasn't Watts. That wasn't until after the uprising in '65 when I was in college. But hey man, what you looking at, man? Hey man, you in the blue, fool. I'm talking to you, man. You talking to me, man? You the only one out here in blue, dude. Who you think I'm talking to? What you want? Man, why you looking at me? I'm not looking at you. You call me a lie? No, I ain't calling you a lie. I ain't looking at you, man. I'm waiting on the bus, man, to go to my gig, man. Look, fool, I ain't even got a job. You calling me a lie. Man, I ain't calling you a lie, man. Look at man, ain't nobody gonna call me no lie. Watch this, man. Watch this. Man, don't move up on me like that, man. I move up on you anytime I want, man. No, I ain't gonna let you move up on me like that, man. What you gonna do, man? Don't come no further, fool.
That's right.
I'm gonna find out. You selling wolf tickets? Yeah, I'm gonna buy one. You ain't gonna do all right, man. Boom, boom.
Now what?
Boom. I want an encore. Boom, and a curtain call, fool.
Now
what? Some roses on your ass. Boom.
But I mean, I was told when you're in a gang, ain't nothing but a bunch of cowards anyway.
Yeah, it is. If you want to see what life was like for me when I grew up in the late 50s and early 60s, watch this movie, Boys in the Hood, and was somewhat more refined. That was over in the Crenshaw area of LA. And everybody wasn't in a gang, but everybody had to deal with the consequences of the gang. And they were the ones that didn't have daddies. And mama was what the rest of the women used to call a woman of ill repute. They didn't get any home training. And the same punks that were crying, snot running down their nose in the 4th, 5th, and 6th grade became all badass in the 7th grade when they possed up. And in LA in those days, they had Slausons, Dale Vikings, Businessmen, Boptown, De La Soul, etc. After the 65 uprising, they just disappeared. And then in the late, say, 69, 70, you start getting this thing came back. You had the Crips, the Bloods, and Gangster Disciples. And hell, a kid on my playground, Trinity Avenue Elementary School, it was me and Ron Chappelle and Cliff Stewart, both of them doctors. Dr. Cliff Stewart, now dead, one of the roughest martial artists in the world. And we ran this playground. And one of the kids on the playground, you know him, is Tookie Williams, who helped co-found the Crips. And he was the last person executed on California's death row.
That's what I don't understand. You execute this man, and here it is.
Wrote 6 children's books.
Yeah, and you got Charles Manson. You let him live.
Yeah, well, governor didn't have the balls. And you can ask who that was and see what kind of front the rest of his game is. Now, the other one we had that you probably heard about, he was a skinny little 12-year-old. Late singer Barry White. By the way, they put his age up 15 years because his voice was so deep. But he had some physical problems and he died of that. But he's a good kid. His mama let us work with him. Took his mama, wanted that check. And she wouldn't let him get out of the swamp, so he just became the baddest alligator in the swamp.
So you basically hung with these and tried to groom these kids as they was young.
No, I don't use the word groom. I got a bad connotation now. To man up. See, what the three of us brothers did is we got the community involved, so they'd help out. We talked a lot of game, ran a lot of game, and we wound up getting a movie theater in the elementary school using the auditorium, and we conned these distributors into letting us have all the first run movies if we could find a licensed projectionist to show them. And Brother Chappelle was the only certified and licensed union projectionist in the whole state of California who was black. He flashed his cards. Guess what I got? So you guys conned me. Yeah, we sure did. And we sold hot dogs that we got donated and the buns and everything and soft drinks. And we raised money and we even started a low power radio station. I was the DJ. Bobby-o, Daddy-o, this is JoJo coming to you on your radio. E to the T, baby. Come fly with me up into the ionosphere we go. Have no fear as long as I'm here. I walk about the land and I give no slack as I go into my act. In fact, look at my feet. You will see the soles of centimeters off of the planet Earth because I don't touch the ground. I float, I fly, I glide. Put your favorite body parts on the radio, baby, because I got what you need to make them feel good. This is JoJo coming to you with the show, etc. So we did a little thing with the neighborhood. What can I say? It was funny. That's been 55 years ago. But it is what it is. And the three of us, to show you what men can do, we're young men. And every Wednesday, we talk to downtown movie theaters in Los Angeles to let us bring 200 kids from first grade to seventh grade down there, no charge. Did buy up the concession stand, but the three of us men could keep those kids so quiet. Patrons would say, I had no idea all those children were in there. They were so quiet. Now, to show you what man can do, we had some sisters that helped out. They had their own program. They'd bring 10, 15 kids and be 6 of them. They couldn't keep them quiet, and they would start a ruckus and everything. And we'd have to, somebody lost their mind. Don't let me find out who it is and get quiet. Why do you sit there and disturb the children? You hurt themselves? No. They need to be quiet and not jeopardize this experience because there are no theaters in all the South Central LA right now. So we are giving them an opportunity to see first run movies for free, and their mamas can't get them down here. So just either you let us control your kids, you control them, or don't bring them. So eventually they just let us do it. So they'd be unruly with them. But as soon as you get young men involved, quiet. See, that's the whole thing about it. The young boy wants to be the older boy, wants to be the teenage boy, wants to be the old teen guy, wants to be the young man, wants to be the proven man, wants to be a village elder. So it goes up and it feeds down. And they've been doing this since Alley-Oop was in a cave or Jabonga was on the Serengeti somewhere. Roman legions, Marine Corps, it works. And you have to put that to use. I was a Boy Scout, Cub Scout master for 15 years, and I had all of these boys who didn't have a daddy in the household. And, oh, where that lady? sit down right over there under that awning on those benches and leave these boys alone. Now, in 2 hours, I'll send somebody over here to get you. Come watch and see what your son can do. Oh, they out of control. Can't nobody get them to do nothing. Oh, yes, you can. And then by the 2 hours, I'd send one of my senior scouts over there and get them, and they'd come over there, and these kids are marching, drilling, snapping to attention. Yes, sir. No, sir. No excuse, sir. How'd you get them to do that? Well, they're boys and they want to be men. So when they have a man to emulate, they act like young men. But you see, you're not giving them what they need to make that move because you don't trust them, but you won't do what's necessary to move them to the next level. Okay, they won't do anything. I said, how do you do it? I said, well, let me tell you what you did wrong. All right, you didn't get this boy any instruction. You didn't stand there and say, this is how you do your socks. I want them like this. I want them in this sock drawer, your underwear. They look like this. All right, now let me see you do it. And you stand there and you take an hour doing it. Next time, you take an hour doing it. Take an hour doing it, and then you say, I got to run downstairs. You go wait 3 or 4 or 5 minutes, come back, see if they're doing it. If they're doing it, you give them a little bit longer, and then you test them and see if they can do it on their own. If they're not, you make 3 assessments. Did they understand what they were supposed to do? Did they understand how to do it? Did they do it? If they did not, was it because they didn't understand the first 2 or going to the third one because they weren't doing what they were supposed to do? In which case you discipline. If it's because they didn't understand how to do it, you re-instruct it. Because it's the long term. It may take you a little while up front, but you're not going to get anybody to do anything when you say, boy, go clean up your room. You haven't shown him how to do it, and you haven't had the patience to stand there with him. And half the time when you're jumping him, you mad about the fact that your man didn't stroke you right last night, or you think he's seeing somebody else because you ran him off. So you're not punishing this boy because of what he did. He's being scapegoated because of what happened with you. So you have to be consistent. The other thing is cold-blooded. You can't punish the kid when you mad. You just let me catch you. Bring yourself over here. You don't got on my last nerve. No, that ain't how you do it. It's like, didn't you get told what's going to happen to you if you did this? All right, bring me that belt.
Yep, pretty much.
Well, you're going to be a man. Man knows what are the consequences. You might as well learn. Grab your knees, boy. Look at that wall. You old 10. Don't you eyeball me.
They definitely got away from that. They definitely got away.
Bam, that one doesn't count. You flinched. Bam, 3. Bam, 4. Cry, and you're going to get 2 more. Bam, 5. All right, suck it up. You a man. You did it. Take what's coming to you. And then all this nowadays, he just ran because he was afraid of the police. Didn't anybody tell you you don't run from dogs, wild animals, or whatever? So why run from the police? If you're trying to get away from a crime, I can understand that. You take your chances. But I was scared. That's why I ran. Then don't be a punk. Man up, brave up.
Yeah.
And look, I grew up where there was LAPD. And that was rough. You will come here, yeah? Hey, man, what you talking about? You will show your papers, please. What? Fritz, he does not have his papers. Gott in Himmel. Nazis guten. Nah. Hey, what you talking about? You mean like my driver's license, man? Here's my driver's license. Fritz, take a look. Ah, Carl. Go about your business. Yeah? Yeah, man, whatever. You know, damn, man. Richard Pryor used to joke about that on one of his albums, like, got stopped at LAPD on the wall. What wall? Find one. You know, damn.
I just
that's real live Gestapo. I remember one time I walked out of my apartment, blink, instant daylight. Damn, man. Boom, 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 boom. There's a helicopter 15 feet above me. Freeze. A ground unit will arrive shortly. Place your identification in your right hand. Make no sudden furtive movements or ground units will act accordingly. What's the furtive movement? Everybody in LA knew what the furtive movement was. Man, what happened to dude, man? Oh, man, Roger made a fatal furtive, man. They shot him 17 times. Wasn't but 2 cops. Well, he reloaded on him, man. The
Good
6
God
shots.
Almighty. Woo!
You know, damn.
I just look at it like this, Judge, and I say this moreover. You know, women, this is why the generation is messed up, because hurt women, we supposed to protect our kids. We got an umbrella. It's raining outside. And we supposed to protect our children because our emotion, we don't want to go down to our kids. But the umbrellas got ripped so much to now our kids got wet with our problems. Now our kids carry on because the mother hates the father. Now she's telling the kid, your father ain't nothing. Your father left me. Your father wanted to abort you. Your father is some trash. But yet, why are you putting all this burden on this little child that's 6 or 7 years old?
Hold on. Let's make a correction here. Why you have an umbrella over him? Ain't nothing but rain. Change him when he gets home. He needs to learn to deal with the rain. He might be out on a mission someplace. Ain't no umbrella. He got to be able to handle the rain. Toughen his ass up. See, got to start thinking like that. And by the way, it's good for the girls too.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what is good for the girls. She got daddy around. Daddy, could I have $50? Tamika and I going to the mall with her mama and her aunt. Baby, I just gave you $20 2 days ago. Daddy, please. Oh, look here. Here's $100. Don't bother me the rest of this weekend. Now you go on and don't be hanging around with them hoodlum boys. Yes, Daddy. See, she knows how to deal with a man. She understands. She's not anti-man. She's not anti-woman either. Because if you're a man and you're anti-woman, you're anti-yourself. Because you don't like Nookie. You like Nookie, then, you know, last I checked, women are the sole source and supply of Nookie on the planet Earth. They get deference. For my entire adult life, I've been deep into the matter of the pursuit, acquisition, and enjoyment of Nookie. So I respect and treat women well, even the ones that are a fool, I'll protect. But by the way, there's no daddy around. Instead of her saying, baby, you know, can we talk about this, blah, blah, blah. They say, look, let me tell you something, what I'm going to make you do. You ain't going to make nobody do a damn thing. I'm out of here. Bye, fool. What you going to do? Hit me? Hell no. Any woman that I got to hit, I'm too big a damn fool to deal with her, and she's too big a damn fool for me to deal with. So I'm gone. Bye.
And that's how a lot of them think too, Judge.
I know.
That's how a lot of them think too. Like, yeah, I ain't got time for this, man. I'm gone. And then not think about the child they left behind. And the thing about it is now that child got abandonment issues, trust issues. Now, as this child get older, this child ain't gonna be able to trust nobody. And now this child just come enraged.
You ever seen Jerry Springer?
Yeah.
And let's see, this is the 7th man you've accused of being the father of your child. We have the results of the paternity test. And you are not the father, Jamal. And then they're back for number 8 and 9. And what's happening is, yeah, there are some guys that run off and leave the woman, but that's not what's going on now. When I did my show, we had a fertility clinic that was a consultant. They consulted.
Mm-hmm.
And this was for 15 years. They were the largest fertility clinic in America. Here's their statistic. 5% of their customers were married couples with fertility problems. 45% were lesbians who wanted to be mamas. And 50%, or what they assessed to be straight women, didn't want to be bothered with a man and wanted to be a mama. So 95% of their customers were single women who didn't want to be bothered with a man. And talking to clinical psychologists who dealt with these issues, it's not right now a problem of daddy abandoning or scofflawing in the situation. the woman didn't want to be bothered, but she wanted that check or she wanted to be a mama. So this guy's just like going to a fertility clinic. He's a sperm donor.
Mm.
They had some lawsuits that came out of that where the woman went to a fertility clinic or she got artificially inseminated, but she found out who the sperm donor was. So she sued the sperm donor for child support. So the courts came up with this doctrine called intentionality. Sounds ridiculous, but they crafted it. And what that meant was if he had no intention of being a specific father, then you couldn't go after him. So I think is a disincentive for a lot of young women to get knocked up on purpose. On purpose. If there was no intentionality, that's it. Now, that would instill some modicum of discretion. Now, there's a poetess, Nikki Giovanni, of some import, a black female. And in the 60s, she spoke at UCLA twice. Came to a BSU meeting one time. We jumped her. We jumped her good because she got up there in front of 10,000 people in Pauly Pavilion. And she told these women, you don't need a husband. Being married is a form of slavery. You don't need a father because all a man can do is screw up children. So if you want to be a mother, pick somebody that's tall, strong, and smart. Get knocked up and then don't tell the SOB he's the daddy, because if you do, that ain't going to do nothing but mess things up. And we told us, what the hell is wrong with you? Do you know what kind of poison that is? Now, years later, they honored her. I did not know that was the honoree for a black student alumnus association. And I paid like 20 grand for 2 tables. When I found out she was going to be the honoree, I canceled my check and said, not her. And I wrote a long letter explaining why. No, See, that kind of poison got spread. Marriage is a form of slavery. And when you have that, you don't want a father around. You don't want a husband around. Men can't do anything except mess up. They're toxic, see. So that's one of the problems. And here's the other one that's bad, dudes. Young brothers, young white brothers, young red and yellow brothers. I feel shame for you. Do you know what? All ethnicities, including black folk, is the same. There are more boy virgins 25 and under than there are girl virgins. And the thing of it is, somewhere around 15 to 19% of the boys are getting all of that nookie. And we got another problem. We have about 84% of the American population that's getting knocked up. The girls, 84%. Are unmarried, didn't want to get married, and they're doing it by intention. And then you get the mamas. This ain't even new. 1994, 95, I had 96. I had this, well, I guess you can call it a family in my courtroom. Started off in 94, I had a 57-year-old woman charged with felony drug and theft charges. She's 57. I had her second oldest child in front of me, her 43-year-old daughter. The 43-year-old daughter had a 34-year-old daughter who was born 1 week before the 43-year-old turned 10 years old. The 34-year-old daughter who was in front of me had a 21-year-old daughter born when she was 13, and the 21-year-old daughter, when I sentenced her, had an 11-year-old going on 12 who was pregnant with her second child. Well, about 16 months later, the 21-year-old is now 23. Her 11-year-old daughter is 13 with 3 children.
What?
And the 57-year-old is now 59, and she messed up. So I'm making a comeback every 2 weeks so I can eyeball her. And I'm looking at all these reports. In 1 week, she had 342 lineal descendants on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 generations. And 2 weeks later, she jumped from 342 to 358. 4 years later, when I retired in 2000, this same woman had more than 3,400 lineal descendants. I had one of her 29-year-old great grandsons in front of me. Take one great off of that. And this 29-year-old had 63 outside kids and was paying no support for any of them. I had another one who had 47. And it's like, what's going on? And to show you how stuff can get screwed up, when this stuff was going down, Harold Washington had been mayor of Chicago. And the school system had gotten pretty good. And out of this 3,400 crew, 120 some of which were in my courtroom on various felonies, as far as we could find, there were just 2 out of this 3,400 that had ever had a job. And they were the only 2 that we could find that had graduated from high school. And essentially what happened was their fathers kidnapped them when the mothers were doing penitentiary time and took them to Chicago, where they had a pretty decent public school system back in the 90s. So just look at the hell it is right now and compare it to what it used to be then. So I'm looking at abject failure. 3,400 descendants, and this woman is 63 years old.
63. God.
I back 1991, first time this really hit me, I was unloading on this fool, a pedophile, convicted, pled out to rape instead of especially aggravated rape, because he got this 12-year-old knocked up who had this kid when she was 13. Well, they put the girl's mama on the stand, and I had the mama arrested as an accessory to especially aggravated rape. You know why? Excuse me, ma'am. You invited him, 27 years old, to live in your apartment so he could sleep with and impregnate your 12-year-old daughter? Yes, Your Honor, my friend girls were saying, honey, what's wrong with you? You got a grown woman in your house and you ain't getting no check off her? I tell you what, no bond will be set. Take her into custody and charge her with especially aggravated rape. DA's office, the court expects you to do something about this. And why wasn't it done down at juvenile court when they got all these stats, who the daddy was, and this girl's 13, which is especially aggravated rape in Tennessee law, and nobody charged the known individual with this? What's going on? It had to come out in some other circumstances where an independent agency got a hold of this. So that's how we get him in. No, take her into custody, no bond. What are we doing here? And I'm going off on this guy. And he said, Judge, I don't understand. And he's crying. My mama wasn't but 13 when my big brother was born. What did I do wrong? She was 14 when I got here. What did I do wrong? What illness is this?
Yeah, that's crazy.
And see, it's our job to take control of this thing. So we have to teach these young brothers, you know, hey, you're a man. You're supposed to lead. You're supposed to guide. You're supposed to direct. You're supposed to do what you have to do to get it in here that can enable you to do that. You know, the Titanic's going down. It's your job to drown and save the women and children. But these days, I guess one fool will put on a dress and claim he's a woman too so he can get in the lifeboat. Not saying it may not have happened on the Titanic, but still, let's not make it too damn obvious. You know, I always defer to women. Open doors for them, give the seat up, pull.
But they don't want that, though, Judge. They don't want that.
I know they don't, but the normal women do. The normal.
Yeah, you got some out here that still want it.
But you don't know which one is one of that 1 out of 20 idiots with that feminist shit, excuse me, mess in
But
their
you're
head.
right though,
And
because
which one's a good woman? I mean, when I first got to Hollywood, I was dating a famous singer at the time, all right?
Mhm.
And I invited her to a luncheon at the studio. So I opened the door graciously. Most of the older guys knew who she was because she was our Beyonce and from my generation.
Mhm.
I pull out the chair. Some of
You
these
don't want to
ladies,
give a hint, Judge, who it was?
was they?
You don't want to give a hint who it was?
Frida Payne.
Okay. Oh
Look
wow.
up. Look up. We're still friends. Anyway, I pulled the chair out. These lesbians wrote letters to human resources talking about I insulted womanhood because I opened the door for Frida Payne and pulled the chair out for her. What's the matter with you? You
What?
know, that's like that's like 20 years from now, you start a date Beyonce, so you invited to a business luncheon and you pulled the chair out for her, and some fool women are jealous in there and get mad because you pulled the chair out for her. What's wrong with you, man? Damn.
I mean, you got some women out here, Judge, that just they want you to be rough with them. Some of them don't. You try to.
No, they don't want you to be rough with them. They just don't want to have anything to do with you because they hate themselves. See, back in the 60s, I'm black and I'm proud. Black power.
Gina Davis.
Well, no, I'm just saying black power. I'm black and I'm proud. But you see, they don't want to be what they are because they feel shame. That's why they're trying to wipe out shaming and guilt because they feel shame for what they are. If you are a man, I don't care whether you like it or not, you have an obligation to the tribe to be on the wall of the fort when the bad guys attack. You know, you got a job to keep saber-toothed cats off of the women and children and the old and the infirm. You have a job to keep the lions from eating folk up. That's your job. And you see, nowadays, some people don't want to deal with that. They put a dress on, and some of these women don't want to deal with their duties and obligations to the human race and to the race by being women, so they want to be something else. No, do your job. Do what you are obligated to do because you owe it to the human race
But a lot
or
of
to your own people.
But a lot of these people now, Judge, just having kids just try to hold on to the man because they don't want him going nowhere else.
No. That's part of the problem. The bigger problem is those that don't want him. They just want the babies. You see, it became the in thing, and they glorified this dysfunction in television, movies, what was in. And remember, the more babies you had, the bigger the check was. The street cred was acting like you were part of the group. And the group was saying you don't need a man, so why keep one around? Yeah. But what happened is most of the problem was up here. Now this little small part is come up here, come up here, come up here, and the other one where the guy left is no longer the big problem. The problem is we don't want him in the first place. Nikki Giovanni saying you don't need a man. Worst thing you can do is have a man involved in raising your children.
I don't know, Judge. I just feel like as a
Well,
father,
you should get involved if you are the father. But the problem is a lot of these people don't think they are, or we set a culture up where guys are into pimping and simping. Yeah, man, I got my bees and my hoes, man. They takes good care of me. No, what do you do? Man, I smooth it out. No, what do you do as a man? Well, that's man. I know it is not a
that's
man.
not no man thing. That's ignorance.
But see, they think that way. Now, let me give you an example. A lot of women think gangster hip hop rap video is a sexual fantasy. It might be, but it's an awful sick one. You know why? The half naked babes bouncing around up there on the stage, that's their mamas, their aunties, and their grandmamas, and all of those female relatives, their friend girls. See, if you went to somebody that had real street cred, You saw where he was when he was 15, 16. You see his grandmama out there half naked, 39 years old. She trying to get laid, knocked up. His aunt's out there and his mama's out there and their friend girl, 40 ounce in one hand and a joint in the other. There's a, well, I'm not so sure if I'd call him that young now, but he was 17 at the time and he's become an accomplished rap artist. When I saw him, he had been wrong, but since he was a minor, he had to have an adult. So his mama and his grandmama showed up. Now he's 17. His mama wasn't but 29, and his grandmama was 42. His grandmama had just had her 14th child 4 weeks before the show, and mama was 8 months pregnant with her bare belly hung across a wrap skirt about that long with most of her thigh and hip showing and a little halter. I made them go to wardrobe and I wouldn't let them on until they changed. And the kid got done wrong and I awarded him $5,000, but I had it put in an escrow account in a trust fund that couldn't be touched until he turned 25. So mama and grandmama are mad at me.
Yeah, they heated.
Like, that's our money. I gave birth to her and she gave birth to him. That's our money. No, you didn't get done wrong. He did. And I run it. Last time I ran into him was about 4 or 5 years ago out in LA. And he came over and I said, I remember you. Yeah, he said, thank you, because that's right. They were fighting over that money. I took that money when I was 25 and I put it back into furthering my education, which is on the QT, because I would have lost street cred if I'd let it be known. He said, but you were right. That thing where your producers were all mad at you because you took 45 minutes to break it down to me. What I'd been thinking was normal was something that you pointed it out. And when I thought about it, you were right. I was getting that from my 13-year-old aunt talking about what she was getting off of some guy. And I thought that was normal. Where that's what you did with the opposite sex. No, that's some sick mess. But you see, you have to get the young boys acclimated and thinking like men, take pride in how well you provide. Take pride in how well you provide. And
Judge,
they don't, because they've been taught what? They ain't nothing but dogs.
That's it.
They ain't good for but one thing. So they took that to heart. Somebody keeps telling you for 17, 18 years, you ain't good for nothing.
Yeah, like Fred to tell Lamont, you big dummy. And Lamont would believe it. Well, hey, my name Dummy Lamont. And as Judge, since you've been off the bench, I know you might not miss it, but do you see, since you've been off the bench, is there a change since you've been off the bench?
Yes. Yeah.
Wow.
We have too many judges now who always wanted to be judges, and they don't have the requisite experience in the trenches to do a good job, especially on the appellate courts. You had too many came out of academia, were somebody's favorite nephew or niece or a political hack that got chosen because they went with the party line, and they've never dealt with people law. Too many of them came out of an ivory tower, either in academia or corporate law, and they never dealt with people law, so they don't have common sense, and they've never had to deal with juries and real people, so they come up with less than sound resolutions on the appellate level, and they made law too complex, because the criminal law got too many people in some back county somewhere on the far side of the state saying, I want to be tough on crime. So they get legislation introduced, and you have too few lawyers involved in the game, or the ones that are involved, they don't know anything about con law and the Bill of Rights and due process. And they come up with the craziest stuff to just say, who thought of this nonsense? This is crazy. It ain't even tough on crime. It just messes up the pot. And we've got too much of that. like, for example, a certain judge, well, she sent her husband to law school, had 3 children. She got out of law school herself. She passed the bar. She got sworn in, and 4 days after she got sworn into the bar, the governor appointed her over a circuit court. Less than 2 years out of law school, she became a federal judge. Now, you know that's way wrong. Well, another guy, let's say district attorney before last in Shelby County. This guy was 2.5 hours late for his swearing in ceremony. Do you know why?
Wow.
He'd never been in the criminal courthouse. He didn't know where it was. They had to go get him. Ask the new district attorney.
Wow. So they just putting anybody anywhere.
That's what I'm talking about. Now that first person is on a circuit court of appeals for the feds. Yeah, you know, that's, they use, on the Supreme Court, we just got somebody on there who said she didn't know what a woman was. Now, I know some black lady judges that are much more qualified. There's Roger E. Clifton on the same Second Circuit Court of Appeals. She's a fine lady. There was Justice Bernice Domlin on the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeal. I was one of her mentors. She's a fine black woman.
But they're not going to put those people in place because they know they're going to make change. Yeah, they're going to make change. That's why they don't want them in it. They want
so you get hacks in there. See, the Supreme Court used to have governors and senators and very experienced politicos and very experienced in law types, and they would have known good and well that you do not issue an inflammatory opinion like they did with this thing Roe v. Wade right before midterm elections. They would have said, because of the potentially inflammatory nature of this, we are delaying any action until after the next election, or we have to take it under advisement. It's not going to have an opinion issued this term. You don't do that. And then when somebody leaked the draft opinion, some heads should have rolled, but they didn't. I mean, that was one of the most screwed up things I've ever seen in my life. The new majority of the court issuing an opinion that jeopardized those who made them the majority. That's just so politically inept, and it's inflammatory.
Would you come out of retirement?
Well, I'm doing that to run for mayor of Memphis, Tennessee.
Well, I'm definitely going to make your shirt.
JJB in 2023 for mayor of Memphis, Tennessee.
Yes,
sit right downtown and take back your town.
That's right. And the thing about it, Judge, you'll make a good mayor because you definitely for the people, and people want people for people. And these people are just puppets in for their game. Like down here, they just passed a law in Maryland. If your car look like it got drugs in, they're going to pull you over. How is this, Judge?
We ever hear about the Fourth Amendment? No. See, these people are dangerous. The worst thing they're doing is suppressing the Bill of Rights. That's dangerous. That's a slide into fascism. And then you control how people think. You try to. Be careful. You might get them real mad. But you do not deal with speech by repressing it so nobody hears the opposite. You meet speech with more convincing speech. That's the way you're supposed to do it. But these clowns, they don't get it. I had a professor. The class was called The Soviet Sphere of Influence in World Politics. That's back in the 60s. And I was kind of a teaching assistant. She said, she's foreign. She said, America is in grave danger of becoming a fascist country, not from any jackboot wearing, goose stepping, uniformed thugs, but from some pink panty wearing, long haired beatniks, the way she called them. And they will switch and twitch their way into fascism, trying to protect you from yourself. Said, if you want to be free, there is collateral damage that comes from being free, and you have to be willing to pay that cost. That means you have to rely upon yourself rather than somebody doing it for you. And the parable is, you can feed a man a fish, or you can teach him to fish so he can feed himself. And if all you're trying to do is make him dependent on your fish, he soon is no longer a free person, but a very dependent one.
And that's dangerous, because once he comes dependent, you can't break that cycle.
No, you can't, because they adapt to it.
Yeah.
To an extent, what has happened in our communities, we have become too dependent. Take reparations. This is the third time in my life that reparations has hit it big.
I think they gave it to China, and they gave it to other countries.
No. I'd be glad to get it. Don't get me wrong. But the point is, I'd be glad to win the big lottery. When that is Powerball with almost about $2 billion in it, I bought 30 damn tickets. Hell yes. But do you think I'm crazy enough to buy everything be all right if I win the lottery? Sure it is. But you think I'm going to sit there and hold back on everything else while I wait winning the big lottery? Like I'm saying, my parents talked about reparations, and in their lifetimes, they remembered 2 occasions where it hit. And my grandfather, one of them, was telling me that it came up when he was alive, and one of them was born before the Civil War, so he was about 14 when General Sherman signed off on January 14th, 1865, an order granting every slave family 40 acres of confiscated rebel land and 1 army mule. General Grant signed off on it. Lincoln signed off on it. The Republican House and Senate signed off on it. And then when Democratic Vice President Johnson from Tennessee became president on Lincoln's assassination, he stopped it because the South still hadn't been restored to the Union, and it was a military district, and as commander-in-chief, he just signed orders saying, we're not going to do that. So we haven't gotten it back since. And we used to joke about it when I was in college. We had a better situation than exists now in most of the public universities and colleges around the country. There was no tuition. Free. You may have had an incidental fee, $50, $100, $75, but there was no tuition. You had to support yourself, but you didn't have any tuition. So, some of us got loans to live off of, which weren't that much at the time, but we used to have this little saying when they would try to collect, say, look, man, I'm just dealing with self-help on the interest compounded semi-annually at a reasonable rate since 1865 on 40 acres and 1 damn army mule. Screw you. But I mean, I was 20 years old. I'm 75 now, and this is the 3rd time reparations has hit it big. And what you're going to need is an Appropriations and Enablement Act by somebody's legislative body, preferably the U.S. Congress, House and Senate, signed off on by a president, and surviving attack in the Supreme Court by a whole bunch of states. California's talking about it, but California's too broke to do anything about it, and 54% of the California population is Hispanic and 47% of the registered voters are. I don't think it's really going to go anyplace.
No, it's not. It's just definitely going to be at a standstill.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to be like, no, we ain't got time for that.
What about the rest of the country? So it'd be great, but the way I computed it, what it would be reasonably worth would be about $500,000 a person. And number of people that would collect, that would be between 13 and about $16 trillion. And the last I looked for 2018, the gross income of the whole country wasn't but $19.4 trillion. So you can't give up 15 out to 19. No, that's not going to happen.
It's sure enough, ain't. But
So it'd be nice if it did.
But we know it's not going to happen, so we ain't gonna hold our breath on it.
And the other thing is, if they gave it, frankly, I'd go buy a big interest in a lot of athletic clothing supply places, and I'd be collecting big time on everybody coming in there and getting a pair of Nikes in every color and style for themselves, boyfriend, two boyfriends, sons and daughters, and all of their acquaintances. Yeah.
Judge, I think you should run for Senate, man, because you can make a lot of changes up in there, man.
Sure could, but I mean, I live in Tennessee, and the dynamics of this state are not going to let that happen. But in Memphis, it's the largest predominantly black city in America, 14th largest. And it can happen. And we've got the Mississippi River down there where you could put modular hydroelectric generators in there, in banks of them. 2 of them would fit in the back of an ordinary pickup. You can raise them up and down to service them, no problem. We'd generate a huge amount of electricity. It wouldn't even have to be stored. It would go into the net. We could sell the surplus from New Orleans to Louisville to Chicago, Arkansas, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, North Carolina, and we could expand this concept to the Columbia River, Tennessee River, Colorado River. The country could get a new source of energy that didn't even require fossil fuel and on an almost unlimited basis. The way these things are set up to generate energy by tides, depending upon the day of the month and the month of the year, they vary. Tide might run in for 2.5 hours and slack tide for 6 and a little fudge, and then 4 hours running back out. And it varies, but the Mississippi River isn't going to drive for the next 1.5 million years. And you have this continuous flow, you could generate a lot of power. You have these people giving away the city money to finance private industry on a certain level that doesn't benefit most people because it's small industry. We could require that if you get a zoning variance to reconstruct, renovate commercial buildings, or you build a new one, it has to have a solar array attached to it, which goes right into the net. We could have electric buses. They're making Ford electric cars 45 minutes outside of Memphis, next county over, and Cadillac is doing the same thing. And California says no more cars but electric cars next decade, and they're going to be in worldwide demand. We could be the next Detroit, but these sorry thinking folk don't deal with that. Where there's energy, you can have industry. We can bring that in. Police. Hell, how about if we reform the police department? So instead of having ineffective civilian oversight, we have civilian operation and management of the police department like you do with the U.S. Department of Defense. Civilian commander-in-chief, the president, that would be the mayor. Civilian secretary of defense, that would be the police commissioner or the director of police, sub-directors. And you have everything run by the civilians, have block captains and so forth tied directly into the dispatcher rather than having to go through 911. The mayor could set up a militia, not some bozo Proud Boy thing, but a real one, where it would be putting fatherhood back in the hood, where you get retired first responders, veterans, good citizens who wouldn't mind going through the training and go to drill, if you want to call it that, once a month, and go out 5, 6, 10 at a time and supplement the police. And boy, come in, what you doing out here? It's midnight. What you hanging on this corner for? What you do? No, we don't know how that. You going home.
That's right.
Now, well, you ain't got a daddy around. Well, the five of us, we're gonna be your daddy.
That's right. Go home.
Go home.
Go home.
Well, we've got skating rinks that are abandoned places kids used to hang. They can't now because they're kill zones. So put a police precinct in them. Recruit some of them to the police. Use the center to establish vocational training and academic rehabilitation.
But they definitely took all that stuff away, though, Judge.
Yeah, I ain't crazy enough to shoot up a precinct yet, but
who knows?
Turn it around. So I had this thing where for this 10-year period, they did this study. The statewide recidivism rate with felons was 80%, but in my courtroom, it wasn't but 18 because I put manhood in them. And I had some women that would put womanhood in the young females so that they could earn the title of woman and the young males could earn the title of man. By the way, that's a title. It isn't just
given to you.
Given to you because you got a certain age. You have to earn that. And my motto is protecting womanhood and promoting manhood. And even if some fool doesn't want me to protect them, I'll still do it because that's my job. My obligation as a man. Titanic's going down. I get off the boat and drown. Everybody else gets saved. That's my job. That takes a lot of doing. And half of what we have going on now is to avoid that unpleasant potential necessity.
I mean, I want to ask you one question, Judge, before we get up out of it, because I know you probably want to get some rest. What do you think about now you got Kanye West running for president. Now you got Trump trying to get back in the race. What do y'all take on this, man, before we get
Kanye's not going to be president. He better stick with dealing with Parler. He and Musk could do some good taking the primary social media venues, platforms, and letting them be free speech areas instead of this garbage that they had. Shadow block. For 6 years, I was trying to get a blue check. They wouldn't believe I was me. Musk sent out a thing saying, you have until November 9th to come up with a solution or you're fired. Well, guess what? November 11th, I got my blue check. And he's gotten rid of 2/3 of the employees who wanted to bring that little brand of pink panty wearing fascism to the fore, and now free speech. And that's what he says. And Kanye needs to deal with Parler being free speech. And Kanye, quite frankly, isn't old enough to be president. He needs a bit more worldly wisdom.
Yeah.
Now, maybe one day, I don't know. But
for right now, I think he just needs to play a position that he's doing right now. Like,
yeah, Trump is making noise, let the public forget about Kim.
Yeah, because she was a hoe, a first class hoe. It started from mom.
Well, that's how the family got their money. See, the game is you have Meet the Kardashians, and that promotes the 2 videos she did with
Ray J.
Ray J, Brandy's brother. And it looks like Mama Kardashian helped set that up because all through the videos, they talking about somebody jacking off, watching them, get your jollies on. And they didn't know it was going to happen. That was the plan. And for 20 years, that's been on at every major hotel and motel in America. And you can still get it on. Well, you can still get it there. Mm-hmm. And let's see. Dish TV, Direct TV, Comcast, Xfinity, you name it. $4.95 for the short version, which is the more interesting one, and $7.95 for the more boring.
Mama was the like the captain of the ship. She guided them. Even Ray J came on IG saying that they did contracts on this. He pretty much
that's how the family got their money. Can you think of it? All of the millions of hits at $4.95 a hit.
That's billions right
And
there.
it's still on.
Yeah, they still getting money off it. And she talking about now how I don't understand, Judge, how she can get somebody set free and she is a whore. How? I mean, what's going on, Judge? Help me.
Look, 40 some years ago, I used to represent a whole lot of pimps and hoes in Memphis. And first off, pimps are about as low as it gets. The only thing lower than a pimp is a pedophile. And hoes, they are some confused people. And by the way, pimps can't turn hoes out. Their preachers do, and their mamas, their aunts, and their grandmothers do. And all the pimp does is recognize that. See, how do you do that? Well, somebody that's a female relative says, you ain't nothing but I know you're going to be a no good, low down sinner. You're going to be a trial in the tree. You're going to have all these men after you. Oh, Lord, blah, blah, blah. And they tell this girl this negativity their whole lives. And see how pimps work is how pimps work. See, people need to be accepted as they perceive themselves. And if they've been raised to perceive themselves essentially negatively, when the pimp says you dumb, stupid, and ugly, I'm the only one that love you with your, and slaps her around, she's saying he really sees me as I am and he's punishing me because I'm bad and I need to be punished. That's no different from the preacher used to say you're no good low down sinner and you're going to hell, but for the fact that I'm screwing you, on a regular basis, but I screw you in the name of the Lord. And, when you sell one slice more cake than somebody else, I'll stand you up in the pulpit and recognize you. That's like the whole sell $5 more nookie for the night than the pimp's bottom hole. And she gets to ride in the Cadillac in the front and walk into the club with him. And, it's that whole game. So it's really sick. And what do they have it now? P-Valley?
Yeah.
Oh, that. I used to represent a lot of strippers, and I was on retainer at the strip club before I got on the bench. Look at here. The manager of the club, he gives head to some of the customers that swing that way. They glorify this dysfunction. It's crazy. And see, anybody that's dealt with the dancers can tell you, dude ain't getting nothing out of that. Because if you got 100 strippers, 95 of them are straight up lesbians. 3 of them are bisexual, and 2 out of the 100 are straight. And the interesting thing is, guys throwing all the money around, and it ain't like they do on P-Valley. It might be $5, $10, maybe a 20 every now and then for a lap dance. But the straight women up in there dancing naked and getting sweaty and the G-string rubbing up against certain parts, they would give it up to somebody free of charge. And these fools are paying all the lesbians the money, and the lesbians are giving the money to their girlfriends. I got an uproar with a bunch of them because I worked up a deal. I said, you need to save your money. So I had them sign agreements, and I put their money in an escrow account.
Mm-hmm.
This woman went off on me. I thought she was accusing me of stealing. She said, I'm trying to influence. I said, what you talking about? I didn't make this much money. You lying. You still ain't going to get control of me. I said, but you did. You just weren't spending $29.95 at Hotel 6 every night and throwing most of it away on your friend girl, the 2 of you buying drugs. So, yeah, you do have $18,000 in the bank at the end of the month. Hell, no way I mean, yeah, it is. I had some dancers that on a good night, they had Millington Naval Air Station up here on the 1st and the 15th. On a good night with the following weekend, they can make 6, 7, 8, 9 grand. Easy. But they give it away to their girlfriends, and they take this P-Valley and they try to glorify it. There ain't nothing glorified.
And you got people looking at this show and talking about it like it's the new crack thing. I mean, you got a grown man got lip gloss, a full beard, and a wig on, walking around. I mean, look at this show. The show is about a rapper who's getting banged out by the people in the bar. This is crazy, Joe. This stuff is sick. And they glorify it. And this is what our young kids are looking at. They glorify this stuff, and you can't have a conversation unless somebody bring it up. P Valley, have you looked up? I don't even look at that trash. For one, I disagree with homosexuality because God made you a man. That's what He made you. He didn't make you. He didn't make no mistakes. He made you a man. But yet you want to keep saying, "Oh, I'm trapped in a man's body, but I'm really a woman." You's a faggot. That's what you are. You wants to be a faggot, and that's what you are.
Leah. And there's another thing too. They have gays against groomers. They have gays that are against LGBTQ because they think it's a cult, and they may get their freak on in the bedroom, but they leave it there. But these folk that try to bring it out and groom, that's bad. The other thing is where P Valley is supposed to be located. I had some clients that went from that area to Memphis, back to that area to Atlanta, to the underground, and then back over here and back. And then the white guys did have the babes on the back of the Harleys, and it financed drug acquisition and trade with what the girls would earn stripping. So yeah, I'm familiar with it, and it ain't like that with all that money. They ain't spending that much money. No way, no how. That's Hollywood. And the other thing is, yeah, and let's talk about that other thing. All the brothers walking around with their pants hung off their behinds. First time I saw that was in July 1980. My law partner died, and I inherited some of his cases, and I had to file petitions, motions, which were granted, to file late appeals because he died on everybody. And I'm up at the main penitentiary in Nashville. I'd never seen this before because these guys in the penitentiary, they can't wear belts, but they have their jeans tailored so they fit. They try to be neat. And I saw this dude with pants hung down below his butt, him holding them up, and drawers at the top, and a big baggy shirt knotted in the front. I said, man, what the hell is that? Oh, Lord, you brown, man. That's like, see, we up in here, most of us doing life a long time. Yeah, like we got everything we need except some soft booties. So we try and take them off in the man pussy. So they short timers. So they dress like that. So see them trees over there, when the guards ain't around, we bend them down, pull them down, and get down. And if they try to run, they fall down to their ankles and they trip face down, booty up in the air. And when they're on the block, man, it's like we make them take them pants off, and we don't let them wear no panties and that baggy shirt. That's his dress. See them over there with them mini skirts on and them weaves and then jewelry and hoop earrings and them high heels and then tail and toenails painted. We turning them out. We making man booty. So the idea is to hang them low like that so everybody see that, and everybody bust him out till it get easy for them and they get to liking it. I said, damn. A few years later, I was over at a lady friend's house. She had one of these big projector screen TVs, and I think the group was Crisscross on MTV, and they were down like that. I said, oh, man, looks like man pussy. And then I look up, and in the 80s, late 80s, you start, early 90s, you start 90s, you start seeing this, and kids dressing that way. The lower the sag, the cooler the dude. No. You know, you just look like you turned out or about
somebody will bent you over. That's crazy, Judge. I mean, it's weird though. I
look like, damn, dude, damn. And see, by the 1990s, it had morphed from everybody supposed to be busting it out to that was a sign that if you were in time doing time in the joint, somebody strong owns you, hands off. But they come out and you can also tell they might be buffed out. That's so they can pick and choose, and everybody just can't throw them down and take it. But they had these long nails. It's a giveaway. And like, there was a Hispanic comedian, Miss Mancia, I think his name was, and he used to have a joke say, hey, I got to call into my radio station from a lady. She said, like, I got a problem. Ray said, like, I'm dating these two guys. One of them just got out of the penitentiary, and the other one he going to college. Which one should I deal with? I love the one. He said, "Hey, what you got to do is you have a nice dinner. Get you some champagne, and you take a shower with some candlelight. And then when you in the shower, all soaked down, you drop the soap in the bottom of the bathtub, and you see how quick he bing down to get the soap. You know." You didn't take too much time, you leave him alone because he want to go back to the penitentiary, hey, that's it. All right, that's about straight up and down.
Good God about it.
It's funny. Defense lawyers know a lot about the clients. We can't tell on them specifically, but you'd get mama coming down there. My boy in trouble. Yes, ma'am. Usual retainer. All right, we'll work on it. Blah, blah, blah. Last time you kind of weak. I'm going to require more. Come to think of it this time around. All right, Lawyer Brown. All right. Okay, in and out, in and out. Then finally he does a couple of years. He comes out this time. What happened? Well, he doesn't do 2 years. He does about 45 days, couple of months. He comes out. This time he's grown, so he's got 4 ladies take care of him. They come down and they pay the fee. They don't know about each other. Sometimes they get to squabbling when they find out about each other. Then he does a couple of years and he gets out. This time he's got 2 ladies and 3 gay boys that put the money up. So they don't know about each other. The gay boys do. And then it's funny. One of the ladies would come back, Lawyer Brown, I want my money back. Sorry, dear, you can't have it back. I've been saying sign the jacket. Why do you want it back? He no good. I found out right down at the end of the hallway in my apartment building. He's screwing these 3 gay boys. And I'm looking, all my Kotex was gone. And he putting it on his butt because he's bleeding. And he smelled like he done stuck it up in some doo-doo, and I ain't going for it no more. Damn. It's like that,
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, Judge. Wow. I know you heard some wild stories though, Judge. I know you had to hear some wild stories.
Oh, you have no idea. One time on this show, I had one of the producers just piece this together, and I went back and got some records from the public defender's office over the number of cases I handled, some that I had as private practice. And I got an idea what I dealt with when I was with EEOC and legal services. And then I added up the people on the show and also the witnesses and stuff that I'd interviewed. I'd handled somewhere, and this was like year 10 in the show, not the end of the 15. It was somewhere around 80,000 people. So that's a big sample. Most of the time, you don't get a sampling that big when you start dealing with assessing humanity. So, yeah, some of the thugs, the OGs, they got some proclivities. They get off in there and they get to liking it. Now, I mean, it's 21st century, I suppose it's all right. But some of these OGs, they developed a taste. Not all of them, but a lot of them do. And I tell you what, the jail that we have at a place called 201 Poplar, the walls are hollow. And they put some one-way, two-way viewing up in there. One way. They look like vents, but you can see through them. But they can't see back. Or the bathroom mirrors, you can see through them. They're two-way. You can't take a tour through the thing without seeing at least 3 or 4 instances where somebody's being bent over in the bathroom and booty busted. Oof. Like, man. I mean, I remember when I used to have certain days when I'd have petitions to suspend remainder of sentence. And I remember one day we had 11 folk in there. Oh, they bad men. They learned their lesson. They want petitions granted to suspend remainder of sentence. They were in the penal farm the correctional center, not in the Department of Corrections, so I could do that. They had up to 8 years. I'm looking at this report, and every one of these 11 is HIV positive because they'd been dealing with each other, multiple homosexual contacts. And you're looking at them, OG material. And they had the girlfriends in there talking about, yeah, we gonna set up housekeeping, and I really want him out. And I'd make a little habit. I'd hear all of them before I granted any of them. Oh, and I'd get through and I'd say, ma'am, listen, Miss Thompson, Miss Jackson, Miss Edwards, step to the microphone. Now, all of you have indicated that you're going to take back up with these defendants. And I know counsel for the defense has approached with the state and asked that the court not divulge certain things, but the court's not going to be privy to nor party to this. Said you should be advised that each one of the young men you have testified on behalf of that you want to take up domestic relations with, well, all of them tested HIV positive, so that's likely to be a death sentence if you want to commit to that. Oh, no. What you mean? You mean what? Court has to advise you. The court's duty is to deal with protecting the public. Each one of them is tested HIV positive. Now, that's word up. The court had to do its duty, and the court issues no apology to the defendants. You did what you did. So let's see, on 6 of them, the court will grant the petitions on the terms the court will dictate. 2 of them, I think each of them needs another 45 days. So-and-so, so-and-so, so-and-so. Madam Clerk, please give them a date 45 days hence. And the other 2, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, it's crazy what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, they don't care. Hey, Judge, I want to ask you a quick question. While you was on the bench, have you ever dealt with a case or cases where women marry these men that's in prison? What's your intake on it? Or what was the outcome of it?
Well, I never had that precise situation but I had some funny situations as a lawyer and as a judge. I had one situation where the public defender, a female, took up with one of the defendants. It created a conflict. She got caught down on the floor on security cam, banging him. She was riding him. Anyway, I wound up getting appointed to take over the case. That happened on 2 occasions. James Earl Reid had wound up in my courtroom, one to supposedly kill King, who didn't. He ran off with his public defender. She helped him escape because she was banging him out. And I had a bunch of those cases. Not cases, but situations where a lady lawyer got caught on the security cams. They couldn't have sound, but they would.
You could see the motion.
Yeah, just in case somebody went off on somebody. Now, I had a female bailiff at one time. She was funny. She was beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Slender, model type. And then she kind of got big. She became a deputy and a bailiff. It was kind of funny. She had a little sweet voice. Your Honor, this defendant is giving us a lot of problems. I said, yes, ma'am. May I talk to him back in lockup? Sure, ma'am. All right, come with me. I said, damn, anyway, you'd hear this thumping back there. Did you handle the matter, ma'am? Oh, yes, Your Honor, I feel so much better. You know. I had all kinds of funny stuff happen. Like, you did what? No way. You know, what? And see, some of it, I mean, people have no idea how horrible folk actually get. We get these cherry pick cases where somebody 23 years old works in a newsroom And it's a slow news day, and they look on the net and they see something interesting and they'll post it, and then everybody wants to jump on the bandwagon. Well, for every incident that gets reported, there's 150 that don't. So we make a lot of things that are pretty common. How bad does it get? Well, we had Dracula. You know, Dracula was based on Count Vlad Dracul of Transylvania, real individual. He was known as Vlad the Impaler. He liked to impale people. This guy would go into the forest around Millington Naval Air Station, located in this county, Shelby County, and he would find a young pine tree sapling, and he'd bend it over and shave the upper limbs off, and he would have it roped down to the ground, bent over. So he would ambush and kidnap one of the female Navy types jogging or something. He'd drug her, strip her naked, rape her, gag her, tie her hands behind her back with duct tape, tie her feet, put the shaved top of the tree in her vagina, and then let the tree go up, and it would take 7 or 8 hours for it to penetrate through her guts, come out through her throat, penetrate the brain, or typically come out between the clavicle collarbone and the neck, and they'd be writhing in agony as they died slowly. And we had this guy in there, you know. So I mean, there's some pretty horrible murders. And other stuff too. Black folk kill white folk, get away with it. I had one where I had a Marine gunny sergeant who was the victim. He was white. I had a chief petty officer, Navy. He was black. He started dating this white woman. They got together. It was the ex-wife of the gunny sergeant. He kept coming over hassling both of them. So he came over with a baseball bat. Chief wound up knifing him with a butcher knife. The gunny sergeant ran 2 blocks, piled up. He lost too much blood and clotting factor. He died. And I acquitted him. And interestingly enough, I alerted my bailiff when the dead white gunny sergeant's daddy was walking over to the black defendant. I thought he was going to do something, but he stuck his hand out and he said, "Son, no hard feelings. I told my boy somebody was going to kill him if he didn't stop acting a ignorant fool like he been acting. You did what you had to do. Let me shake your hand. I ain't got no hard feelings. Just want you to know." And I've had white police on trial in front of me for doing things wrong. Sometimes they got acquitted, sometimes they got convicted. I mean, the criminal justice system you have to think of as a rule book. How many black folk are passionate about the NBA?
A lot.
One time, black folk couldn't play in the NBA until Don Barksdale from UCLA did with the Lakers back in 1946 and 47. But the rules haven't changed. But now, black folk are at the top of the game. The criminal justice system, the rules haven't changed, but the black folk need to learn how to play the game. You know where we go wrong? Judge, this so-and-so, you know my granddaddy. Yeah, I do. How's he doing? Oh, he passed away last year, but he gave me your number in case I had a problem. What can I do for you, son? How did I get out of doing jury duty? I'm not going to tell you that. How come? Because didn't you post something Twitter about justice is just us? Yeah, it is. I said, well, that's why it's just us, because you're trying to get out of jury duty. Do your duty. Sit down there and give the man some justice. I get more calls still. Judge, how I get out of doing jury duty? Serve as a juror. You get 75 prospective jurors. Out of the 75, 40 of them are black. And first thing, anybody think they have any reasons why they cannot legitimately serve as a juror? all the black folk had their hands up. Put your hands down. We'll get to it. Now, the court will read some of the categories. Anybody in these categories, blah, 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 blah. Not so many hands. But Judge, I can't, I mean, I just, And then when you get back there, have some balls to stand up for your own convictions instead of just going on. I'd let the lawyers talk to the jury after they got a verdict. And you'd be surprised at what comes out.
Wow.
Didn't you think there was reasonable doubt? Oh, yeah, there was plenty of reasonable doubt. Why'd you vote for guilt? Well, we figured we just didn't hear what really happened because these smart defense lawyers, they were real smart. They kept us from hearing what was going on, and we figured the police wouldn't have arrested anybody if they hadn't done it. And this is the black foreman of the jury. Hey, man, damn. And then I'd set the verdict aside and set it for retrial. Prosecution get way upset, but I didn't agree with that. See, the judge could sit as a 13th juror, and if he disagreed with the verdict, he could set the thing aside and set it for trial again. A lot of judges won't do that. And then our black politicians don't help out. We had a guy named Joe McCarty.
I heard that name.
Division 8, Shelby County Criminal Courts for the state of Tennessee. And he used to be Grand Dragon of the Klan and chairman of the White Citizens Council. He was a bigot. He was sick. Something was wrong with him. I used to cuss him out every other judges meeting we had later. But every time he ran for election, he got the black bloc vote. Why? Because he gave all these black politicians a lot of ducats up so he could get on there and sample ballots. And folks get to sample ballots. You know, the local state representative, he's not letting you out of jail, not setting bond, not putting you in jail, not sentencing you, not granting you a divorce, not setting child support, not determining custody or paternity or any of the above. You don't pay attention to him. You just vote because his name is on that sample ballot.
Hey, Judge, can a felony do jury duty?
Not in Tennessee unless you happen to have gone through a diversion program and you get your record expunged. And there's some question about whether you can, if you get your citizenship rights restored, which can happen under certain circumstances.
Well, I had somebody just send me a message saying that he caught some felony charge and he wanted to know, and you just said it, but he wanted to know how would he go about getting expunged, because he said
it depends on where he lives.
Because I know in DC you can't get him expunged if it's a drug charge.
Technically, most states have an agreement up front where you're going to go through some kind of altered probation situation where if you get through, the record would be expunged. In some states, like Tennessee, if you go through that successfully and you get your record expunged, it says in the statutory scheme, if you successfully complete this diversion program, in other words, final action on the matter is diverted until after the probationary period, you are entitled to deny, even under oath without penalties of perjury, that you've ever been arrested or convicted for this offense. Now, that just gives people a second chance, and there is that available in a lot of areas. I don't know. You'll have to check with a good lawyer where you live. I can't tell you what's going to happen in all 50 states and territories.
Definitely. Thank you, Judge, for being on the Truth Podcast. You know, it's always a pleasure for you coming on the show, man, because I when you come on, you just drop so much knowledge that it brings light to the people. And after this, I always get phone calls like, man, he is the bomb. They give you accolades. You know?
Well, yeah, but see, I'm running for mayor, right? They had a straw poll with 10 potential candidates, and they actually had the notation, we even include Judge Joe Brown, obviously not a serious candidate, blah, blah, blah. Guess who won the straw poll?
You?
With close to 5,000 votes, 47%. The next guy down was 36% out of 10 candidates, including 2 females and a couple of white guys. So, yeah,
So
laugh
that
out
means you're
loud.
going to be mayor then.
I represent the people. I appeal to the people, and I am not part of that boule crowd. And they're like Hollywood. They're out of touch with reality. They sit in the bar areas of five-star hotels, and they're on the leather couches sipping Chablis and nibbling cheese and crackers. And Jamal, what's going on with, that group? I hear rumors that, Tommy, what do you have to say? I don't know, Alan. I'll check my sources. Hey, dude, get with the people. And see, I have a thing. You do not need to represent anybody if you can't walk amongst them without a armed guard, because the people are supposed to say, no, that's our guy.
They think their money going to get them through.
No, nobody touches our man. That's our chief. And see, that's where it's supposed to be. So
you're going to be the next mayor.
Should be, but we have new machines, but there was not supposed to be any election corruption. But 14 years ago, the feds put the money up in Shelby County to replace all of the machines, because they had found that since 2000, this is 2008 when they came up with this, the machines had been hacked and there hadn't been a fair election in 8 years. And then up until this last November election, this is the first time in 22 years that they had used new machines. They spent the money, and now they try to talk about, we need to raise money to pay for them. No, don't you dare, because the feds gave you the money. What did you do with it? And under the Bush administration, Obama administration, Trump administration, and even the Biden administration, the Justice Department said these machines are hopelessly corrupted and you can't have a fair election. So all it took was a simple majority resolution on a majority black county commission. We, the below signed county commissioners, hereby resolve that these machines, deballed voting machines, should be replaced. That's all it took. But each time you had at least 3 or 4 black Democrats that voted against that. They got to be part of the action so they could be selected without having to be elected. And now we got new ones, and the election didn't quite look like the traditional ones did, but I don't know. Is what it is. So
when you get the final say so that you won?
Well, we have an election in October next year.
Okay.
So it's unclear as to whether we'll have a runoff or whether whoever gets plurality, which has more votes than anybody else. And like on this straw poll with 10 candidates, including white and female opponents, hell, one of the ones that the young Democrats wanted everybody to withdraw in favor of, she didn't even get 1% of the vote. She got 16 votes total.
Wow, that's low.
I know it is. So
I think I believe you got this though, Judge.
Maybe I won't get overconfident, but the deal is the people need to take control of this city, and they can do through me. I don't need the money. I'm not trying to advance a career. I've had mine. I've come out of retirement. There was a magnificent woman, Barbara Cooper, who passed away just a month ago. She was 93 and she was still holding office. Dr. Cooper, I remember when she got a doctorate, and I met her almost 50 years ago. She was involved with Title I with the Board of Education. She came to me 2.5 years ago and said, Judge, you need to run again. I said,
really? Your heart is for the people. And one thing I've learned from the streets is people recognize real, and they know you're a real dude. They know you straightforward. You ain't cut no corners, and they know you're going to be strictly for the people. So
and I ain't worried about hurting somebody's feelings. No,
that's what I'm saying.
Low down son of a bitch. You need to be in jail.
And that's why people
you're
recognize
doing wrong. And I don't care whether you like it or not. I'm not going to lie to anybody.
And that's why you're going to have a lot of people hate you. But once you get in there, they know you're going to set standards. They don't care who feelings is in a way. They know standards is coming with you, because that's what you're about, structure and standards.
Well, I don't have a lot of people hate me. A lot of people love me. But if you listen to the press that acts like I don't exist, they what did the kids call them? Those boule Negroes with the little pinky finger stuck out as they're sipping Chablis with a glass of red wine so they can look like they're in, sitting on the table that they don't touch, and nibbling cheese and crackers and shrimp and whatever else they're doing, and they don't have a clue, and they feed off of each other, and they don't know crap what's going on, wouldn't have a crap, and they get $24,000 a year jobs on the county commission or the city council, and they get rich in a few years. How you do that?
Yeah, so I believe in you, my brother. Like I said, I thank you for coming on the True Show. You know, you're always welcome to come on the True Show. You know, you always welcome, Judge.
Can I interrupt for one more thing?
Yes, go ahead. Do your thing. Do your thing.
I not only do service, I sell sauce. Judge Joe Brown, JJB Barbecue, BBQ, JJB BBQ. That's 2 J's, 3 B's, and a Q.com. And order yourself some. Everybody that's tasted it said it's the best barbecue sauce they've ever tasted. We have sauce, the regular, OG, and hot. We've got seasoning. We've got chicken links, smoked, raw, hot, mild. And by the way, they are done up by the only black USDA certified packing plant in California. Sister runs it. And if you are in Los Angeles, you can go to 79th and Western down in the hood to D's, that's in Delta, D's Original Takeout Grill, and you can get it. They do pork, beef, lamb, goat, turkey, duck, chicken, greens, goes good with greens. I had this stuff a long time ago, but mine was good old nasty stuff. But Chef Damon, who does catering and stuff for all of the celebrities out there, he fixed it up so it's hell. Sprouts and Whole Foods, they can sell the stuff too. And in California, it's on the shelves at some major grocery stores.
You're gonna try getting to DC, Judge?
You can get it in DC.
You can get it in DC?
Yeah, just go online, jjbbbq.com.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, man.
Good stuff. And it's probably most economical to get the 3-pack when you deal with the shipping back east.
Definitely. I thank you, Judge. And I thank you.
JJB in 2023 for mayor of Memphis, Tennessee. Send Brown downtown and take back your town.
That's right. Salute to people that's on here. Thank you, guys. And Judge Joe Brown, you're a rock star.
2 thumbs up.